Rethink X asking, how much should we invest in humanoid robotics? Let's see what Adam Dorr has to say. What if it were possible for a country to increase the per capita productivity of its economy by a factor of 2, 3, 5, or even 10 in the span of just a decade? Now, them's fighting words. Can you imagine over a single decade, any country on Earth being able to double, triple, or even 10x per capita productivity? This is an entirely new world we're about to enter. Let's put that in perspective. We're looking at approximately a decade of per capita GDP for a few countries around the world. Starting point here, normalized to 100. In the best case on this chart, which includes Canada, Japan, the US, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia, it happens to be Australia, up just over 10%. Not 100%, not a doubling, a tenth of a doubling. So we're not talking about potentially incremental increases in GDP, productivity, per capita. We're talking about a potentially staggering transformation. Back to the article. Adam asks, what level of investment would that kind of result justify? And I think I can answer that. All the investment, all the money. How much would you like to invest? Yes. No, but actually, I mean, this is a truly absurd potential return on investment. The more productive we are, the faster we enter an era of abundance. Think about this differently. If you own a company, which is probably the minority of people here, but play along at home, imagine you could hire an employee or a number of employees, and even after you've paid them their salaries, all of their costs, their healthcare, everything, the result of these new employees is that your company, your business, is doubling its profits, tripling, even 10xing. I mean, how many of these employees would you hire? And the answer is all of them. Back to the article. Committing just a single-digit percentage of GDP to the deployment of humanoid robotics would quickly yield a super abundance. Oh, there's that word, abundance. Of goods and services, resulting in a staggering level of overall prosperity. Man, I should have read this article ahead of time. I'm basically saying the exact same shit. But he's right. This is like an infinite prosperity machine. If there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow called superabundance, prosperity for everyone, staggering levels of prosperity, which there is, would you like to dawdle and crawl and slowly creep your way toward the end of the rainbow, or move as fast as you fucking possibly can? Remember, just a few days ago, we heard from Elon Musk estimates that they'll produce, call it roughly 5,000-ish humanoid robots this year for internal use. Next year, about 50,000, and they'll be selling them to external customers. The following year, about 500,000. We're talking order of magnitude increases in production. If we keep going from 500,000, do another 10x on that, you're now at 5 million. Sounds ridiculous. But if you have a viable product that adds value, that can massively increase overall productivity, you're going to sell as fucking many of these things as you can produce. We're not talking about vehicles here where, yeah, cool story, bro. Like, it's almost the same, might be better for the environment, might perform a little bit better, the software might be cool. It's just a fucking vehicle. Of course, don't get me started on autonomy when it becomes not just a vehicle. We're talking about something that can massively increase productivity, paying for itself many times over, almost instantly. A product that businesses first and then eventually consumers as well will be buying hand over fist as many as we can get tomorrow. Please, let's go. Quote, investing in robot labor could be one of the greatest uses of capital in human history, outperforming similar investments in electricity, running water, and education. Any investment decision is shaped by three basic considerations. 1. What are the expected returns? 2. What are the available alternatives? And 3. What is the cost of inaction? Before we consider each of these questions, let's set the stage with a reminder of some of the striking facts about humanoid robots that we've noted in our previous posts. If you guys haven't seen them, just check out the Rethink X website. I think I've covered at least the first of these two. They will be manufactured at less than $20,000 per unit at scale, compared to the cost of $300,000 or more of raising a human child in a wealthy country. They will be built in days or hours, not 18 plus years. They can be trained and retrained instantly via software download, not over days or weeks or months like humans. By the way, shout out to Neo in the Matrix, something kung fu. And this is a really big one. They will work up to 3 times more hours per day than humans, which means, by the way, that even if they're slower, at least initially, less productive per hour, if they can work 3 times as many hours per day than a human, they can more than earn their keep, even if they're nowhere near, at least initially, on par with humans in terms of productivity per hour. The next point, they will require only a tiny fraction of supporting workplace expenditures that humans require, e.g. bathroom, food, comfortable temperature, noise, air quality, parking spaces, HR for Karen to go complain to, training, insurance, healthcare, childcare, pensions, stock options, etc. This is all very important stuff. Now, I don't know if this is in the article or not, but I will throw it out there. I suspect long term there's actually going to be some kind of productivity tax on humanoid robots, which will likely result in some form of an equivalent of universal income for people who are displaced. And I don't know how else it plays out, but just putting that out there. Anyway, shit's going to get real weird, but I think that might be a pretty likely outcome. Next, they can be redeployed instantly to perform any new task without the social or administrative friction of shifting roles or responsibilities. And they will perform at a totally consistent level of quality, never compromised by boredom, fatigue, illness, drugs, etc. So what are the expected returns on investment in humanoid robotics? Return on investment, ROI, are typically measured financially, but money is only a proxy for the benefits we are really concerned about here, which is the material prosperity created by the production of goods and services. For all its faults and limitations, GDP is a well-established indicator that measures productivity in terms of dollars, so we'll use it here. Consider the returns on investment in human workers in terms of GDP. According to the National Who Cares Whatever, the US spends almost $1 trillion per year on primary and secondary education and an additional $700 billion on post-secondary education at colleges and universities. Now, I just have to jump in here. Speaking about return on investment, it's pretty remarkable that much money is being spent. And as I record this, hopefully the tide is turning, but as I record this, it seems that this entire institution on average has about a 50% chance at the end of this entire process, huge expenditure of producing a retard. When the number of college-educated, left-hearted communists who have no idea how the world works, are completely inept and absolutely brain-dead, super useless, is staggering. So my point here is, today in the US in particular, the education system is not exactly producing great returns on investment. By the way, I'm not trying to be a dick, I'm just calling a spade here. If you guys are curious, go watch some videos of people walking around university campuses in the United States, asking students pretty simple and basic questions. You'll be stunned at how incredibly dumb supposedly college-educated kids can be. The country then spends $100 billion on workplace training. This $1.8 trillion annual investment in the US workforce results in a GDP of $27.4 trillion. In greatly simplified terms, it could be considered a 1,500% ROI. Even though almost 40% of US GDP returns to capital rather than labour, the general relationship between total investment in society's education and training, i.e. its human capital, and the nation's total resulting productive capacity clearly holds. The US civilian labour force is currently estimated to be about 168 million people. If we take the prevailing estimate that labour's share of GDP in the US is 60%, then each working person in the labour force contributes an average of $98,000 to the country's GDP. The article notes here that about half of the population participates in the workforce. Obviously, some of those are below working age and others are retired, and then of course, there's the lazy communists. Okay, so what about humanoid robots? So the article actually includes a simplified ROI calculator. So let's have a look at this. We have the lifetime cost per robot, call it $30,000 US, a 5-year operational lifetime, which I personally think is extraordinarily low. But hey, we'll just use these as starting points. The robot workforce size in millions, e.g. 50 million, and robot productivity as a percent of human productivity. So even with these seemingly low estimates, the cost per year per robot is just $6,000. This means a total investment per year of $300 billion. And the robot boost GDP, $4.9 trillion. And the big one, robotics ROI to productivity, more than 1,600%. Let's just imagine though if these robots happen to operate for 10 years. We're now looking at the robotics ROI to productivity of over 3,200%. Now, things are going to get wild. What if over time these robots become increasingly capable and competent and productive, and remember they can work 3 times as much per week as a human? What if they get to 200% of the human's productivity? We're now looking at 6,500%. What about triple? Just imagine it's as productive as a human per hour, but it's working like 3 times as many hours. We're now at nearly 10,000%. Holy shit. Jumping ahead just a little bit, the article points out that even with some really bearish assumptions, e.g. robots only working for 4 years before they're replaced, right? Seems a bit weird, but it's a super low end thing. You're going to still see an enormous boost in productivity. At scale and maturity, we ought to expect humanoid robots to become much cheaper, last longer, and become considerably more productive per hour than human beings. And obvious things are obvious. When we dial in a cost of $5,000 each, a lifetime of 6 years, and twice the productivity of a human being, we see we could triple the effective size of the workforce with 336 million robots by investing just $280 billion each year. In doing so, this huge increase in productive capacity would boost GDP by 240%. Again, that $280 billion isn't a small number, but it's just 0.3% of the resulting new GDP of $93 trillion. Put another way, $280 billion invested in humanoid robotics yields $66 trillion in new productivity for an ROI of 23,500%. So this is the key point. Increasingly useful, increasingly productive humanoid robots over time are infinite prosperity machines. If you spend just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of their output on more robots, you get these kind of truly astronomical returns on your investment. And at this point, you literally spend every possible dollar you can creating more prosperity machines. It's a total no-brainer. Meaning, any companies that can mass produce these things, and we're talking like millions, hundreds of millions, potentially even, I'm going to say it, billions of humanoid robots, will sell every one of these things for decades to come. Back to the article. That's an economy with one bot for every person. Now imagine 2, 5, or even 10 robots for every person. Never resting, never tiring, just working, producing. Quote, committing a single-digit percentage of GDP to deploying humanoid robotics would result in a super abundance of goods, services, and overall prosperity that is utterly staggering. Indeed. So what are the available alternatives? It's difficult to imagine a better investment that societies can make over the next 2 decades than deploying, wait for it, as many humanoid robots as possible. Gee, I really wish there was a company that had experience mass producing products at scale that was pursuing generalized humanoid robots and also happened to have developed the vast majority of the brain, particularly vision, in a different product that they'd essentially transplanted into that product. And I mean, obviously this is all hypothetical because no such company exists, but fuck man, if they did, I'd probably be buying their stock hand over fist and telling everybody I was doing that so that 10, 20 years from now I can say, well, I told you motherfuckers, but of course this is all just hypothetical, so let's move on. However, other investments will also be required to support robots, especially in energy. Oh man, now here's some more hypothetical stuff, but just imagine hypothetically there was a company that, wait for it, was going to absolutely dominate humanoid robots, but also happened to have expertise in energy, let's say storage, generation and supply, the whole ecosystem of energy. Wouldn't it be fucking crazy if a company like that existed? Wouldn't that be cool? If only. A rough calculation, assuming each robot consumes 10 kilowatt hours of electricity per day, shows that 100 million robots would need about 400 terawatt hours of electricity each year, or roughly 10% of today's total electricity consumption. It's tempting to think that societies must be cautious not to make national investments in robots that might draw resources away from other... this is brain... Yeah, I understand what he's saying, but yeah, this is like small brain thinking, oh no, what that we'll run out of electricity. You idiot. We'll just build more storage, generation and supply. You fucking idiot. Okay, relax. Anyway, back to the article, which is going to say exactly that in slightly less obnoxious terms, I'm sure. It's tempting to think that societies must be cautious not to make national investments in robots that might draw resources away from other critical needs such as healthcare, education, and other social goods and services. But this zero-sum, aka zero IQ, thinking is mistaken. The productivity gains from investment in humanoid robots will directly translate into greater resources available for those other critical goods and services. Exactly. We're entering an era of hyper-abundance, so fucking relax. Indeed, investing in humanoid robots may well be the very best way to increase resources available for healthcare, education, and so on. If anyone's like struggling to think about how exactly this would work, I'm just going to give you like a really simple illustration. Let's just hypothetically imagine you can make a humanoid robot and then go build a big fuck off gigantic battery with some solar. All right, that's his job for the year. Go build a fucking gigantic battery with some solar. And now suddenly you've created more than enough energy to run yourself. Suddenly there's a surplus. See, you understand, right? The world is not static. Energy usage will increase dramatically. You know what else will increase dramatically? Energy generation and energy storage. Therefore, relax. The real question nations must ask themselves is there an alternative investment that could double or triple our GDP over the next 15 years? Let's think about this. I'm not that creative, but I can't think of any. How curious. What are the costs and or consequences of inaction? being a total fucking loser and hating yourself. Oh, he wasn't talking about life. He was talking about as it relates to... Oh, well, okay. Well, anyway, my point remains. GDP is a flawed measure of productivity. GDP and the productivity it represents have also been widely criticised as a faulty measure of human well-being. Nevertheless, it remains an incontrovertible fact that virtually all social indicators of well-being are strongly correlated with the society's capacity to produce goods and services. And Adam's making a very important point here. One of the best things we can do to give everyone a better quality of life is to make society more economically productive. The communists have left the chat. With enough prosperity, virtually every problem is solvable, even our most formidable challenges like climate change. The cost of failing to invest maximally, keyword here, throw as much money at it as you can. Boy, I'd really like to be in the business of mass-producing humanoid robots at scale. So, the cost of failing to invest maximally in humanoid robotics would therefore be monumental, as measured in lost opportunity to increase productivity, prosperity, and well-being, and the problem-solving capacity they represent. Rational policy making, which by the way, as of a couple of days ago, is finally fucking back, at least in the US, ought to avoid such disastrous outcome at all costs. Furthermore, countries that fail to invest in humanoid robotics will also be completely and utterly fucked. Oh wait, I think I misread that. Let's try that again. Furthermore, countries that fail to invest in... Oh no, I think I read it right. Humanoid robotics will also fall behind those that do, becoming losers in the race to comparative prosperity, and very likely faster than at any other time in human history. Yeah, no, I was right. Yeah, they're fucked. If you don't invest, throw as much money, max money as possible at humanoid robots, you're fucked. If a country like the US were to fail to invest adequately in robotics, for example, it could find itself in 2040 with a GDP 1/5 the size of a rival that didn't make the same mistake. Now, of course, nobody could think of any potential, let's just say a country that you could slot in here as a potential rival in 2040 that has now 5 times the GDP of the US, right? No. Moving on. How much should countries invest in humanoid robotics? The ROI on this technology is almost without precedent in human history, certainly comparable to the adoption of electricity, running water, and literacy. Make sure you're sitting down for this. The bottom line is that every country needs to go all in on humanoid robotics deployment, investing every penny they can muster, starting right the fuck now. The stakes are enormous and are so staggering as to nearly defy description. So Adam Dorr is right. And what's fascinating is Adam takes a very rational, measured and reasonable approach as opposed to me as hyperbolic as they get. Yet still, he's using the same kind of terminology as me with slightly less F-bombs, okay? I'm going to read this again. The bottom line is that every country needs to go all in on humanoid robotics deployment, investing every penny they can muster, starting right now. The stakes are enormous and the returns on offer are so staggering as to nearly defy description. He ain't fucking around and he's right. This has got to be the biggest opportunity that has ever arisen. But unfortunately, there's no companies out there with an obvious lead in terms of the brain for the robot, the track record of mass manufacturing products that include computers to run the software, the batteries, the electronics, the motors. So does anyone know any companies that could possibly take advantage of this near infinite demand for these products that Adam strongly believes that every country that has a brain cell is going to be going all in on with every penny they can muster, starting right the fuck now? If anyone knows such a company like that, please let me know in the comments below. Maybe I would buy 1 or 2 of their shares if such a company were to exist. Thank you. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs. This is what viewers of the channel had to say after trying AG1. I feel like I have a lot more energy since I started on AG1. Just got my AG1 in the mail, legit feeling the effects after day 3. 3 months ago, I started AG1 and have been enjoying the evenness of alertness and energy that lasts the day. I just started the wife on it too. Are you convinced yet? I mean, hey, it's worth trying, right? Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR or I can keep going. This viewer, after about a month on AG1, definitely a lack of fatigue in the afternoon. Pleasant side effect is that my coffee intake has imploded and is almost down to 0. One more? Yeah, why not? I honestly feel younger and will be continuing to use AG1. This stuff really is crazy good. I didn't think it would be, but this stuff is awesome. It really is what everyone is saying. One more? Don't mind if I do. I've just received my 3rd month's supply. I've drank it every day. I have so much energy throughout most of the day. I'm productive, started a new business, started socializing, refurbished a boat. It's no coincidence. Thank you for your persistence, your integrity, and your insights. And look, these are not my words. These are not my testimonials. This is what you guys and girls are saying. Maybe it's 100% placebo effect. But even if that's the case, I think it's money well spent. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs.